YNW Melly and YNW Bortlen were the only two who know what really happened on that night when SakChaser and Juvy got murked. Bortlen got dragged into this whole mess because he was the one who rushed him to the hospital. Now he's stuck in this mess as Melly's co-defendant, and that is why Bortlen exposed new details about Melly that show he's guilty as one can be. Here's the lowdown on everything.
I'm not doing no service. I'm telling you the straight up honest truth. Like I can't. What can I like tell you if I'm ducking for my life? My head's over here, steering wheel's here. I'm trying to make sure I'm like, you know what I'm saying? But like I'm keeping the car straight by hitting median, you know what I'm saying? That shit fucked me up.
YNW Bortlen rolls up at the hospital with his two buddies who got shot sitting in the backseat of his car. He's looking all shocked as the nurses start taking care of SakChaser and Juvy, who just got blasted. But something's fishy. See, before this whole mess, Melly, SakChaser, Juvy, and Bortlen all left the recording studio together. You see now, Bortlen's got this white shirt on when they left, but at the hospital, he's rocking a black hoodie. Like he brought a change of clothes or something. Now, we can't jump to any conclusions and say he's the shooter, right? But then things start to get real suspicious when Bortlen can't keep his story straight about when the shooting actually went down. Before Bortlen got all caught up in this mess and got hauled in, he hopped on IG Live. His plan was just to chat with his fans like always, but of course, they could not help but ask about the case. And get this, it looked like Melly was right there in the room with him, even though he stayed off camera.
Me and Melly, innocent.
Innocent.
Innocent. You smell it? Innocent. Hey, everybody just say innocent for me. Innocent. Innocent. Innocent.
Bortlen was super clear about one thing. Both he and Melly are innocent. He kept saying it over and over again, like he really wanted to drill it into everyone's heads. And just to make sure his message got across loud and clear, he even posted it multiple times in the live comments. Talk about getting the word out, Alright, so here's the deal with Bortlen and the cops. During the interrogation, they straight up asked him if he had fired a gun recently. Of course, he denied it. But those savvy detectives weren't buying a single word of what he's saying. And one of them even said, "We can tell, dude." Naturally, Bortlen got all defensive, but the cops were quick to reassure him that they weren't accusing him of anything. They're just trying to get answers. So now you can't really blame the guy for being concerned, right? This whole situation is super intense, especially with all the drama surrounding the deaths of SakChaser and Juvy. The detectives then preached to Bortlen on self-defense, explaining that if he shot back at someone who shot at him first, it'd be self-defense, which ain't a crime. But Bortlen wasn't having any of that. He kept insisting that he had nothing to do with the guns that day. Fast forward to the court proceedings and we got the forensic team exposing the truth about the day of the shooting. That's when things get a little tricky. The forensics team decided to run tests on Bortlen's fingers to check if he was telling the truth or not. And guess what? They found at least 1% of gunpowder residue on his fingers from the day of the incident. They could do this by detecting tiny amounts of antimony, a rare element found in ammo. When someone fires a gun, it creates a cloud of particles that end up on their hands. And that could be crucial evidence in a shooting case like this. So the cops used this instant shooter identification kit, so to speak, and the results are usually accurate, like 90% of the time. Another way they do it is by swabbing the shooter's hand and sending those swabs to a forensic lab for testing. Either way, Bortlen's lies caught up with him, and they became a big deal in court. And you know how it goes. Even the tiniest little lie can blow up in your face when you're facing the judge. And when Bortlen tried to testify against Melly, those lies came back to bite him in the ass. So, lesson learned. If you've been telling inconsistent stories, no one's gonna buy your sudden change of tune. It all worked against Bortlen in the end. YNW Bortlen made a court appearance on July 1st. Dude didn't tell on Melly, as many thought he would. He'd been stuck under house arrest because he's got a clean slate compared to Melly's shady history. And Bortlen tried to get the judge to ease up on his house arrest conditions, like letting him hit up church and travel for shows, but no dice. The judge shut that shit down real quick. Ever since Bortlen first showed up in a court, Melly's lawyer has been adamant that he can't be trusted to testify because he's a big old fat liar. And man, they've really been trying to throw the blame on Bortlen here. But the thing is, the state of Florida ain't got squat on Melly. They're still struggling to find any solid evidence against him. So these super slick lawyers for Melly, they're trying to shift the focus away from Melly and put it all on Bortlen instead. Why? We still ain't sure, man. But here's the deal. If they can pull it off, they might just save their client from that dreaded death sentence that's hanging over his head. Melly's defense team is playing all these sneaky tricks, but it keeps leading back to Melly anyway. So when they were first looking into Melly and Bortlen, they were singing this drive-by shooting tune. But guess what? The detectives dug up some fresh evidence that totally flips the script. The bullets they found in the car from the supposed drive-by, no blood on them. And get this, the bullet marks in the car don't even match up with where Sak and Juvy got hit. Like, what is going on here, man? It's getting crazier by the minute. The prosecutors are just hoping to get one solid testimony from either Melly or Bortlen. If Melly's actually guilty of Sak and Juvy's deaths and Bortlen decides to snitch, ooh boy, things are gonna get messy. First off, Bortlen could be in some serious trouble himself. He might end up getting sentenced for helping out with the crime and lying to those detectives, wasting their precious time. Remember, he's out on bond and chilling under house arrest, even dropping some new music too. But if he keeps quiet about Melly's crime, he could end up in jail for almost a whole decade. And that's not even the worst of it. Melly, on the other hand, could be looking at a lifetime behind bars, or even facing the death penalty. And if there's any truth to those gang affiliations, Bortlen and his family's lives might change forever. Now, Melly's slick lawyers could try to argue that Bortlen ain't trustworthy because he's been spewing lies from the start of the trial. And honestly, that might be the only case they have against him. But here's the little twist. Melly is actually innocent and Bortlen lies about him. There's a good chance Bortlen himself will end up behind bars. And that could happen after Melly's already gone through the worst punishment ever. So you can bet Bortlen's doing some heavy calculations before deciding to snitch on him. This whole situation is like a real-life legal chess game with high stakes and no easy moves. In the final moments of the trial, the defense brought this dude named Adrian Davis to back up Melly's story, hoping it'd help Melly's case. Adrian spilled the beans and shared some crucial details that could be a game changer. All that defense was trying to accomplish was calling up Adrian to take the witness stand was to create an alibi for Melly. Adrian Davis testified about 3 key factors. First off, he said Melly was in that red Mitsubishi, not the gray Jeep Compass. Then he claimed Melly was at home when the gang got the news about Sak and Juvy's deaths. And to top it off, thirdly, he said Melly was searching for his phone because he couldn't find it. But things took a wild turn when the prosecutor got her turn to question old Adrian. She dug up some old statements Adrian made a few years back, and surprise, they did not match with what he was saying now. Talk about a he said, she said showdown, The whole thing got real sketchy because Adrian could not remember his own phone numbers and tried to act like everyone in the gang shared their phones like all the time. Sounds fishy to me and everyone in the courtroom too, huh? Then they pulled out the classic "I was too wasted to remember" card. But then the defense attorney grilled him. He miraculously remembered everything crystal clear like it was yesterday. Yeah, that's not helping the credibility much, is it? The prosecutor went all in, trying to make him look like a total liar. And you know what that means. If Adrian can't be trusted, Melly's supposed alibi is pretty much shot to pieces. Honestly, it felt like a desperate move from the defense, and it ain't looking good for Melly. People in the courtroom ain't exactly on his side either. The tension is rising as everyone's trying to untangle what went down on that fateful night.
You're still unable to reach a unanimous decision. So at this time, what I am going to do is just declare mistrial.
After weeks of drama in that courtroom, the jury could not agree on a verdict. So guess what? Good old Judge John Murphy declared it a mistrial. Talk about a plot twist, man. But hold up, don't think Melly's off the hook just yet. Those prosecutors are going to give it another shot with a whole new jury. So get ready for round 2 in that courtroom real soon. In a few months' time, we'll be back with a brand new grand jury and a whole new round of back and forth between the prosecutor and the defense. This is no joke for YNW Melly. He's facing the death penalty, so it's better to take all the time the jury needs to make a huge decision like this, rather than rushing things. There's been an interesting update in the first Melly trial that concluded without a verdict. The jury was going at it for more than 16 hours, and yet they still could not agree on the decision. But it gets a little crazier. One of the jurors spilled the beans to Local10.com about what went down during deliberations. Apparently, there was this one juror who had beef with another juror right from the get-go. And at one point, she straight up folded her arms and said, "I'm done." The former juror described her as a total chaos maker, and the whole group was freaking out by the end of it. Local 10 says that this juror was hell-bent on acquitting Melly from day one. She acted all cool during voir dire, saying she could set aside her feelings about the legal system, but turns out she could not keep that promise during deliberations. It was a roller coaster ride, to say the least, and those jurors will not be forgetting this wild experience or that juror anytime soon. Another juror tried to talk her out of shutting down and put her feelings aside, but she went full-on explosive mode, manipulative, rude, yelling yelling insults at anyone who dared to have a different opinion from her. On the last day of deliberations, the jurors were leaning towards convicting Melly of manslaughter by a vote of 11-1. But then this woman here pulled 2 other jurors to her side and suddenly announced that they had changed their minds. When another juror dared to ask why she was speaking for them, she lost it again. Insults and gay slurs were flying all over the place, and it turned into a total showdown of epic proportions. Comments online show obvious feelings of annoyance and disbelief. One guy wrote, "I'll bet anything that corrupt juror that said no matter what, she's not voting him guilty from day one was the same woman that got anxiety from the detective that wore the mask. When she said that, the judge should have thrown her right off the jury." Wow, what a mess. Hopefully the next jury is more mature and level-headed. What y'all think is going to happen in the next trial? And are we going to see a Bortlen testimony this time around? Let us know what you think down in the comments section below. Make sure to click that like, subscribe to the channel, share it with a friend or two, and as always, gots to keep it real.